Leisure swimming has been an activity nearing all the way back since 2500 BCE, but soon later the sport was getting rapid attention, causing leagues to make it competitive, which then got swimming its first spot in the first Olympics in 1896. So today I'll be informing you about the history of competitive swimming. I've completed a week's worth of research on the early ages of competitive swimming, and I've been swimming competitively near my whole life. But today I'll be specifically covering the general history of swimming, the evolution of competitive swimwear, and the evolution of swimming at the Olympics. I would like to begin by discussing the general history of competitive swimming. Like I said that swimming's been around for as long as we can remember, it's the competitive aspect of swimming that I'll be covering. The first competitive swim league was created in around 1800 in Britain. According to athleticscholarship.com, they say competitive swimming pools are man-made and strictly used for competitive events. This shows how serious the sport was taken at such a young age, but little did they know how serious and competitive it would soon become. Several years before the first Olympic, a man named John Trujan would create one of the first main form improvements. This improvement was soon to be called the flutter kick. Instead of doing long kicks like this, he named the flutter kick short, rapid kicks like this. Although this was one of the first innovations to the sport, it made everybody in the sport way faster. But back to the competitiveness, with the uproar of fame competitive swimming was getting, it was introduced in the first Olympics in 1896 Greece. This addition to the Olympics has impacted it tremendously over the years. According to Swim Magazine, swimming has been the only annual event every year. This not only shows the fame swimming has been getting over the years, but it shows how much of an impact it's truly had. Now that we discussed the general history of competitive swimming, we will talk about the evolution of the swimwear. The technology behind suits Olympians wear and general competitive swimmers are quite interesting if you never researched them. But by starting off, the suits competitive swimmers wear are now thin as paper and it's more expensive than you'd ever think. And the material over the years is just getting thinner and lighter. Personally, I've had many of these tech suits in my life, and a cheap one costs around $100, and an expensive one like this can cost up to $500. These suits are paper thin, like you can see, and can only be worn around 12 times before they're no good. But just like any type of technology, the more years something exists, the better it'll get. Hence why suit makers are finding new materials over the years that create less drag and friction on them. But since the main reason competitive swimmers wear these suits because of friction, the thinner and tighter, the better. Writers from swimming.org say since the change in material from 2008 to 2009, there's been 9 new world records set. This not only shows how much they've advanced in just 1 year, but it opens the door for more and more to change over the years and new records. But besides the improvements we made this past year, in the early ages of swim, the material they were making the suits out of was silk. In the beginning days of competitive swimming, boys and girls wore a one-piece made of silk, and it was actually slowing them down. But in the 1932 Olympics, swimming.org says a 16-year-old wore this one piece made from strictly silk and was able to win gold. But now that we've discussed the swimwear, we will now talk about the Olympics. Like I said that swimming has been one of the only consecutive sports in the Olympics, this shows how much of an impact it's truly had. One reason this could be is because of how rigorous the sport is. Since spectators know how much work and pain the swimmers have gone through to get where they are, they might enjoy watching athletes compete in such a hard sport. Writers from Swimming World magazine show the steps it takes to be a competitive swimmer as the technique, the dry land workouts, how hard it is to drop time, and the year-round training. This not only proves how much time it takes to be a true Olympian athlete, but better yet, compete in one of the hardest sports. But if that isn't the reason Olympics keeps including swimming, it could be because of numerous events. Having to learn 4 strokes and different techniques for each stroke is definitely an eye-grabbing point. Since there's so many events and not just one, different Olympians are known for different events. Writers from Britannica.com tell even though the sport may have originated from just 2 strokes, over the years more have been developed. I'd like to close with the following statements. We specifically looked at the general history of swimming, the evolution of competitive swimwear, and how much of an impact it's truly had on the Olympics. I hope I've successfully informed you about not just the history of swimming, but the real drive it might take as a swimmer. All in all, I thank you for taking time out of your day to possibly learn something on an interesting sport you may not have known. My sources and